Good morning to all and welcome to the session, the Hindu Editorial Analysis for Proficiency in English. Today's editorial is all about a particular survey and the importance of surveys in general. It is purely based on data and not difficult to comprehend because all that we have to do, go through and focus on the data. And when it comes to editorial vocabulary, not too many words, only a few words, and many of these words are quite familiar. Let us start the session with editorial vocabulary. What is the first word? Enhance. As I said, many words are familiar and not too many words. Enhance, part of speech, a verb, meaning intensify. Generally, enhance we say increase. So, enhance, meaning intensify, increase, or further improve the quality, value, or extent of something. Obviously, excuse me. The second word, reliability. This comes from reliable. Something is reliable, we say. Reliable means what? Dependable. The quality of being trustworthy or of performing consistently well. But generally speaking, reliable, adjective, reliability, noun, it means what? Dependable, bankable. You can bank on something, you can rely on someone. And insight I use regularly, part of speech noun. What does it mean? The capacity to gain an accurate and deep understanding of someone or something. Deep understanding, profound understanding of something, we use the word insight. Parameters we have got recently, twice or thrice. Part of speech noun, a numerical or other measurable factor forming one of a set that defines a system or sets the conditions of its operation. You can say standards within a particular framework. Anemia, it is a medical term, part of speech noun. Low levels of healthy RBC, red blood cells, or hemoglobin. Churn, it could be a noun, it could be a verb. In the context, it is a noun, but generally it is a verb. What does it mean? To move something, especially a liquid with great force, churn. Usually it goes with making buttermilk, churn. Decline, part of speech verb, we have got many a time. It has two different meanings. One meaning, a refuse. Another meaning, typically of something regarded as good, becomes smaller, fewer, or less, or decrease. Declining standards means what? Decreasing standards. Dip, it has many meanings. In this context, to go down to a lower level, the standards have dipped, the numbers have dipped, means the numbers have gone down. Persist, we have got so many times. Continue in an opinion or course of action in spite of difficulty or opposition. You can simply remember persist means what? Continue for a long time. Coercive, part of speech adjective, relating to or using force or threats. Someone uses force, then we use the word coercive measure. Agnostic, an important word. Generally, when we give words related to religion, I give words like I start with theist. Who is a theist? A person who believes in God. And what is the opposite word? Atheist. A person who does not believe in God. But there are some people who cannot decide whether God exists or not. What is the word for those people? Agnostic. In many competitive exams, they have given the meaning based on the meaning, the word agnostic. Because a lot of students know theist, atheist, but only a few know agnostic. A person who believes that nothing is known or can be known of the existence or nature of God. Subjective. Two important terms I use regularly. One subjective, the other objective. Here the meanings are different. Subjective means based on or influenced by personal feelings, tastes, or opinions. You can remember personal opinion, subjective. What is opposite? Objective. Objective means based on facts. When it comes to the difference between a discussion and an argument, a discussion is based on, is objective in nature, an argument is subjective in nature. That is a difference. Implications, one of the meanings, part of speech noun, obviously, the conclusion that can be drawn from something, although it is not explicitly stated. So, implications. What are the implications of something? How does the editorial start? Measuring the change. As I said, this is all about a particular survey and also about surveys in general, the importance of certain surveys. Here, any survey deals with measures something. Measuring in this context, again, any survey, the change. Things are not constant, things always change. And as said by Charles Darwin, nothing is constant in this world except the constant change. Only one thing is constant in this world. What is that? Change. So measuring the change. But you cannot understand. You have to read the next sentence. India should invest more to enhance the reliability of various socio-economic surveys. As I said, all these surveys go with the socio-economic dimensions and should. You all know, I'm sure now we have been getting this helping verb. It is used to advise or suggest to someone. One meaning in this context, the same meaning. India should invest more to enhance means what? Improve, increase the reliability of. Invest more to enhance the reliability. So reliable means believable, something that is authentic of various socio-economic surveys. When we conduct a particular survey, what matters, the reliability factor matters a lot. How can we increase the reliability factor? India should invest more to enhance the reliability of various socio-economic surveys. Invest more socio-economic surveys. We have to invest more. This is the main idea of the editorial. But what is a backdrop? What is a stimulus? The fifth edition of the National Family Health Survey, NFHS, provides a valuable insight into changes underway in Indian society. Here, underway means in progress. Something is being done or something is in progress. The fifth edition of the National Family Health Survey provides, the survey provides something. What does it provide? You ask the question. A valuable insight. Insight, an important word. What does it mean? Deep understanding of someone or something, but usually deep understanding of something, profound understanding of something. A valuable insight into changes underway in Indian society. Any society is not static. Any society is dynamic. Dynamic means what? Changes happen, changes take place constantly. So, this particular survey, NFHS, what is it about? National Family Health Survey, provides a valuable insight into changes underway, changes that are taking place in Indian society. It throws light, an important expression. Throw light means what? Make something public. It throws light on traditional parameters. Parameters we have got many a time. In the recent past, we have got twice or thrice. What does it mean? A numerical or other measurable factor forming one of a set that defines a system or sets the conditions of its operation. In a way, the standards within a particular framework. It throws light on traditional parameters. Again, the word traditional, you have to recollect words like orthodox, conservative, traditional culture, traditional values, and it's a neutral word, but conservative, orthodox, too traditional, they have, to some extent, negative connotation. And when we talk about traditions, we have to talk about belief in spirituality and belief in materialism. There is a contrast between the Western culture and Indian Eastern culture. Western culture, what is the word? Occidental culture. It is more materialistic. Eastern culture, what is the word? Oriental culture. It is more spiritualistic. It is based on traditions, values, ethics. These are general statements, do remember. It throws light on traditional parameters. For instance, immunization among children, births in registered hospital facilities, and nutritional levels. This survey deals with certain factors, obviously. And what are those parameters or factors? One is immunization among children, the other, births in registered hospital facilities. Again, birth, you have to recollect words like antenatal, postnatal. Natal means related to birth. Ante, A N T E, means before. Antenatal means before birth. Postnatal, after birth. Related words you have to recollect. Births in registered hospital facilities and nutritional levels, different parameters. While there is a so what is observation? While there is a general improvement in these parameters, there were mixed signals in nutrition. The editorial has just mentioned three factors. Of the three factors, while there is a general improvement in these parameters, general improvement, something positive, there were mixed signals in nutrition. When it comes to nutrition, mixed signals. Already you have got the expression mixed feelings, means what? Both positive and negative. In this context, mixed signals, both positive and negative. And to substantiate that statement, gains in childhood nutrition were minimal, as were improvements in obesity levels. You'll be surprised to know in 80s, America was known for obesity problem. A lot of Americans obesity problem they would have. But today, according to I think this is 2017 or 18 survey, China is number one when it comes to obesity, and surprisingly, India is number two when it comes to obesity levels. That is really surprising. Gains in childhood nutrition were minimal, as were improvements in obesity levels. The prevalence of anemia has actually worsened since the last survey in 2015-16. There is one word here, anemia, which is a medical term. What does it mean? Low levels of healthy red blood cells or hemoglobin. So all these sentences talk about what has gained, what has improved, and what hasn't improved, and based on the parameters just mentioned in the editorial. But the survey's major contribution, what is the contribution of the survey, any survey for that matter? It throws an insight, obviously, and related to certain factors. But this particular survey, but the survey's major contribution is its insight, deep understanding into behavioral, behavioral and sociological churn. There is another important word. Generally, churn is a verb, but here it has been used behavioral adjective, sociological adjective, churn noun. To move something, especially a liquid with great force, as I said, we use the word when it comes to making buttermilk. Churn buttermilk, then you get. But here it is used, churn means the group of people, behavioral and sociological churn, not exactly people, related to the behavior of people and the sociological aspects of people. When highlights were made public last year, the highlights were made public last year. When the highlights were made public last year, the focus was on India's declining total fertility rate that had, for the first time in the country's history, dipped to below the replacement level, or a TFR, total fertility rate, of 2.1. So, what does this sentence talk about? It talks about what the highlights revealed last year. When highlights were made public last year, something a bit surprising was found. The focus was on India's declining total fertility rate. Usually, if you take a developed country, the population does not increase. But if you take a developing country or an underdeveloped country, the population is on the rise. This is a usual trend. But here, for the first time, the focus was on declining total fertility rate. Decline in this context means to go down, decreasing total fertility rate that had, for the first time in the country's history, dipped below the replacement level. Usually they are compared. Dip has many meanings. When someone goes to a river, visits a river like the Ganges, they take a holy dip. That's a different meaning altogether. Here, dip means to go down to a lower level based on the numbers. Dip to below the replacement level, or a TFR, total fertility rate, of 2.1. What does it mean? When the fertility rate goes down, obviously the population does not increase. That usually goes with developed countries. Editorial talks about the same thing. If the trend were to persist, this is very important from grammar point of view. And there's one pattern I usually give. when I talk about conditionals, how to express wishes and desires. Exam point, if you're a typical example, if I were the CM, I would do something. If I were you, I wouldn't have done something like that. So if the trend were to persist, an important pattern you have to remember, persist means continue for a long time. If the trend were to persist, India's population would is a better word, but here you see a different, the primary auxiliary to be in past. India's population was on the decline, in line with, in accordance with what has been observed in developed countries. This is what I was talking about. Usually, population decline is a feature of developed countries. In fact, way back in 1990s, there was a write-up in National Geographic magazine. The article was about declining societies or dying societies. Many European countries, I'm talking about 1990s, the population that time started declining. And based on that, the title of the article, Dying Societies. Imagine the fertility rate comes down, no new births, and population does not increase. Eventually, what will happen? The society dies. And today, if you go to Japan, a lot of old people, Japan also had the same problem. Declining fertility in the long run is dangerous for a particular society because the population does not increase, and based on that, eventually the society dies. So the article, name of the article, Dying Societies of Europe. So here they should be balanced, birth and death. Here it talks about, if this is an important sentence, if the trend were to persist, continue, India's population was on the decline, would be on the decline, in line with what has been observed in developed countries, and theoretically means improved living standards per capita and greater gender equity. There's one more dimension that goes with declining population. What is that? What does it mean? It is a feature of developed countries. It means theoretically it means improved living standards per capita. Obviously, imagine we have resources, and these resources can meet the needs of about 50 crore people, but we have 100 plus. Then obviously the resources have to be divided and the standards come down. Whereas a population is about 40 crore, and we have the resources to the extent of to meet the demands or needs of 50 crore, definitely the standard of living goes up. And here it talks about the same thing, improved living standards per capita, and simultaneously another important feature, a positive feature, gender equity. It also results in gender equity because this TFR had been achieved across most states. In a way, it is universal across the country. Exceptions are there. Because this TFR had been achieved across most states, two notable exceptions being most populous Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, two states exceptions, but otherwise observed across the country. It was also evidence that population decline could be achieved without coercive state policies, and family planning has struck deep roots. Usually, when a particular country, a developing country, wants to control the population, they resort to coercive measures. This is a universal thing. But here, the observation, something again, a pleasant surprise, it talks about, it was also evidence that population decline is also evidence that population decline could be achieved. We can achieve population decline without using coercive forces, without using coercive measures, could be achieved without coercive state policies. At the same time, based on what family planning has struck deep roots. Now people have realized, imagine a man or a particular family earnings about 10,000 or 20,000, then they have five children or six children, they have to struggle, they have to face a lot of hardships. Whereas 10,000 income, only one child, obviously everyone can be happy. It talks about the same thing. The more detailed findings made public last week suggest that this decline is agnostic to religion. In this context, it has been used differently. Agnostic to religion means what? Not related to religion. Population decline, here it talks about, it is not related to religion. General pattern is If I were you, then the word is would. That's what I said. Initially, I mentioned the same thing. Who is this Ramesh? When I gave the explanation, I said the general pattern when it comes to expressing wishes and desires in English, there's a standard pattern. What is that pattern? We have to use the primary auxiliary to be in past plural form, irrespective of the subject. It could be third person singular. And in the second clause, we have to use the word would. Based on this, in fact, SBI in the past, descriptive paper, there were four models. They would give essay, they would give letter writing, they would give expressing wishes and desires, they would give précis. Now they descriptive paper only based on essay and letter writing. So what is the standard pattern? If I were you, I would do that. If I were the CM, I would abolish something. Based on that, I said, I were you, if it were to persist, then we have to look for the helping verb would. But English has rules, English has exceptions. In place of would, they have used was. That's what I said. I did not say it was wrong. Better word, I said. Standard pattern. The fertility rate, to substantiate that, agnostic to religion means what? Not based on religion. To substantiate that statement, and agnostic, an important word. What generally it goes with a person. What does it mean? A person who believes in religion, theist. A person who does not believe in religion, atheist. A person who cannot decide the existence of God, not sure whether God exists or not, agnostic. But in this context, this decline is agnostic to religion. So, what should you understand? Not related to religion. To substantiate that, the fertility rate among Muslims dipped to 2.3 in 2019-21 from 2.6 in 2015-16, the sharpest among all religious communities when compared to the 4.4 in NFHS 1 in 1992-93. Again, statistical data. Another set of subjective questions is an important thing I use regularly. Subjective statements are not valid, not acceptable. Objective statements are valid. Then you may wonder, you may ask, so what is the difference between subjective and objective? Subjective means based on personal opinion. Objective means based on facts. And usually in this context, I tell students the difference between discussion and argument. What is a discussion? Discussion is based on objective statements. It is objective in nature. Argument is based on subjective statements. It is subjective in nature. That is the reason why usually a discussion is healthy, an argument is not healthy. It results in some sort of unpleasantness. And in this context, I would like to give a quote. There's a saying in English. What is it? When a wise man argues with a fool, you cannot tell who is who. I repeat, when a wise man argues with a fool, you cannot tell who is who. A wise man never argues, a wise man always discusses. Another set of subjective questions means personal feelings based on personal feelings or opinions. That the NFHS attempts to answer using hard data is gender equity. Gender equity, an important dimension. Less than a third of married women are working, and nearly 44% do not have the freedom to go to the market alone. This is very surprising. 44% do not have the freedom to go to the market alone. However, a little over 80% have said that they can refuse demands for sex from their husband. All these go with gender equity. This has implications. So 80% plus they have the right, or they can refuse demands for sex from their husband. So what are the implications of this? There's an important word, implication. The conclusion that can be drawn from something, although it is not explicitly stated, not explicit, implicit, implied. This has implications for legal questions surrounding marital rape. Only 72% of Indian men think it is not right to coerce, threaten, or use force on a woman if denied sex. 72% think that way, something positive, which again points to the vast territory that needs to be covered in educating men about equality, choice, and freedom in marriage. There's a different dimension altogether. It goes with gender equity. Gender equity again related to population decline. There are two things when it comes to population decline. One is related to the standards of living. The standards of living go up. The other one, gender equity. It results in gender equity. This question made it for the first time in the Family Health Survey, as did another question. Two questions for the first time. One is gender equity, and the other one about the number of registered births and deaths in the family survey. How does the editorial end? Multiple surveys, such as the NFHS, sample registration surveys, the census, labor, economic surveys, and ways of interrogation are necessary for insights about a country as vast and complex as India. This is the main idea. Multiple surveys, all these surveys, are necessary for insights, a deep understanding about a country as vast and complex as India. Vast and complex as India, definitely. The center, based on that, the center should invest more substantially in improving their reliability. The main idea is being reiterated. Based on India being a vast and complex country, the center should invest more substantially, substantial means considerably, in improving their reliability, dependability, to make it more authentic. This is all about the editorial, an important editorial. Do remember this is important. You may get as a passage in prelims or mains. They may not ask you to write about population in the descriptive paper, but definitely very important. Prelims point of view, mains point of view, you may get it as a passage or close test, or sometimes para jumble. They may take a particular paragraph, they may give as a para jumble. So that way it is very important. The reliability, important to consolidate your grammar based on editorial grammar, important expressions and phrases, all these. The reliability of something. It takes a preposition of. The reliability of. But rely takes a preposition on. Rely on someone, depend on someone, bank on someone. But here, reliability, noun form, takes a preposition of. The reliability of various socio-economic surveys, important expression. You may ask, sir, why do you bring these expressions? Two reasons. If you take bank exams or any other competitive exam topics, there are two topics. One is sentence improvement, the other one, phrase replacement. When you grasp the important or standard phrases that go with written English or effective English or formal English, based on the same standard phrases, expressions, they give questions, they frame questions. So once you catch or grasp these combinations, preposition combinations, an important topic, especially SSC, bank exams also, they get registered, then within no time you'll be able to answer. Provides something, provides what? A valuable insight into. And one more reason for bringing these, when you write an essay, letter to some extent, but in the essay, if you use all these standard phrases, word forms, word combinations, definitely you will get maximum marks. And many of these expressions, they expect, in fact, in your essay, a lot of candidates write very casually without using appropriate lexical terms, appropriate standard phrases, appropriate word combinations or collocations. So once you focus on these, every day you read the newspaper, every day you read the editorial, you grasp a few important expressions that helps in the long run, provides a valuable insight into something. Dipped to below the replacement level. You can also say dipped below something. To without to also it is right. Dipped to below the replacement level. If the trend were to persist, this is what I was talking about. If I were you, if I were the CM, then definitely standard sentence pattern you have to think of. In SBI, in the past descriptive paper, they would give 4 marks. Each question 2 marks. If you were a bird, what would you do? Answer, they would expect 2 words. One were, the other would. If I were a bird, I would do something. I would fly around the world. So that way, this pattern is important. Conditionals, as such, very important from the exam point of view. Along with conditionals, you have to focus on the patterns that go with how to express wishes and desires in English. Very important. Made it imaginary, obviously. I'm not the CM. If I were the CM, means what? Imagine, obviously. Made it for the first time. For the first time, a standard phrase you have to catch. and make it for the first time, made it for the first time. They use quite often all these expressions. Should invest more substantially in improving their reliability. Should invest, you should do this, you should do that. So, what does it mean? It is used to advise or suggest someone substantially. When I talk about improvement, I see some students a lot of improvement. Then I say, I see substantial improvement. I also say, if you read the newspaper regularly, you can expect substantial improvement. Substantial means what? Considerable. In improving, improve, invest in, this is a prepositional combination. Invest in improving their reliability. What are the questions you can think of based on this editorial comprehension point of view? What is this editorial about? What provides a valuable insight into changes underway in progress in Indian society? What does NFHS throw light on? It throws light on something. What does it throw light on? Keywords, easy to answer. What has actually worsened since the last survey in 2015-16? Something has actually worsened. Worsen is a verb, but here you got to be a little careful. Bad, worse, worst. That is a different word. Worsen, worsen, worsen. This is a verb, a different word altogether. Bad is an adjective, but worsen is a verb. It's a regular verb. What was also evidence that population decline could be achieved without coercive state policies, without using force. An important question that is really interesting. Now let us go to the last slide, enrichment point of view. Enrich your word power based on editorial vocabulary. Please write the part of speech. I may or may not, but I want you guys to write and try to find out the meaning. Enhance, it's a regular verb. What does it mean? Enhance something, enhance your standards. Good, better, best, well, better, best. That's very good. Sairam. So enhance means what? Intensify or increase. Intensify or increase. Reliable information, dependable, authentic, but more dependable. So it is adjective. Reliable means what? Dependable. As simple as that. Deep insight, generally insight. Insight means deep understanding. Here, part of speech, noun, deep understanding. Churn could be a noun, usually it is a verb, but in this context, it has been used as a noun. Means what? Using, no, to move something using force. To move something using force, G. Because using force, another word is there. Decline, declining standards, declined means verb. It has two different meanings. One is decrease, the other one to refuse. He declined the offer means what? He refused the offer. Dip, it is a verb, it is also a noun. Take a dip, a holy dip, a different meaning altogether. Here it means what? Go down to a lower level. Persist, persisted, again it's a verb. Continue for a long time. Coercive measures, coercive policies means what? Adjective. Using force, B is the answer. Agnostic, it goes with a person, but here it has been used differently. Agnostic, uh, atheist, theist, agnostic, it is a noun. Means what? Person who believes that we cannot decide when it comes to the existence of God, we cannot be sure. Answer is F. Subjective, based on personal. This is already over. F. What are you left with? Based on personal opinions, not based on facts. Subjective statements are not valid. Part of speech, adjective. Means what? Based on personal opinion. Some words are important and a few words are really important. You got to consolidate. That is very important. That's all for today. Thanks for being with me till 8:35. Hope you guys have got enriched. Have a nice day. There's another session 8:45 based on